Welcome to what is to me a very exciting point of the growth of life's journey. This will be the concluding episode of our season 3. And season 3 has been truly a labor of love, especially with Sean and I trying to get these things banged out as we do in between our conflicting schedules and our just living the life, okay? But we will be starting season 4. Sean and I will sit down and talk about that this fall, and we'll be kicking out some additional shows to you. But right now, this will be the last episode, and I'm happy, not because I don't like doing these shows, but it's such, to me, a big achievement to realize that we've done almost 20 Life Journey shows from its creation a few years ago. So this will be our final episode in Season 3. Well, welcome aboard. Once again, this is Life Journeys. I'm Dr. Ralph Smith. As we shared before, these shows are mostly me giving life lessons to help you live a better life and people that you care about. Every once in a while, we'll interview people to have them share their experiences. It's a lot tougher to get people to come on Life's Journey because who wants to be seen all over the world on television telling their stories? We don't have them wear a mask or change their identity. So it's kind of hard for people to agree to do that. So that's why we don't have as many guests as we normally would have. On top of that, Positively Port Angeles, again, a show I'm very proud of, that's done by Sherry Kidd. They have a great time putting guests on. In fact, the quality of her guests that come on that show is nothing short of incredible. And believe me, folks, and I know this sounds like self-promotion, but that show is a true award winner. If you ever want to know about all the things involving Port Angeles that can apply to you, and realize that people travel from all over the world to come to Port Angeles and then to be able to visit Victoria, Canada. So in the summertime normally, especially now as we get back to normal, but boy, seeing these rental car license plates, seeing these out-of-area license plates on behalf of a taxpayer of Clallam County in the city of Port Angeles, we welcome you. Okay, enough with those kind of prompts. Once again, I want to remind you again, if you want to access our show anytime, you tune into Papa, which is here in Port Angeles, and that's channel 120 on Wave Broadcast. If you'd like to watch this program and you happen to be in Thurston County, you tune in to Comcast, great company, Comcast/NBC, and we're on channel 22 there. So feel free to watch our shows, and we have scheduled shows there. We're always available on YouTube, so if you watch YouTube or you watch Apple TV or any of those things, simply in the search mode, put in Life's Journey with Dr. Ralph Smith or Positively Port Angeles with Sherry Kidd, and Kidd is spelled with 2 Ds, Kidd, and you can watch it at your leisure. And if all that is too much work for you and you don't want to go to all that effort, then all you have to do is go to our website. We maintain all of our shows on the website, and we give you free access to it. If you want to record them, that's perfectly okay with me, and I kind of own the place, so don't worry about that. And the way you access the website is www.jennymwellness.com. And once again, Jenny is Ginny, mwellness.com. And so you can watch it anytime at your leisure, and feel free to record those shows. We are honored by the fact that you take the time to record them. Okay, let's jump into Path for Happiness. I talk a lot in the seminars and working with the many patients that I've worked with in 32 years of practicing as a psychologist. Happiness is the foundation of life. You know, folks, you have people who live life and they just live it to survive. And they live in a reactionary mode, which we've shared in previous shows. Your success rate of making the right decisions is 1 in 4. And as I always joke about, and the Mariners are getting tired of this, Seattle Mariners, the baseball club, is the only thing good about 1 in 4 is if you play shortstop or second base for the Seattle Mariners, because that's a pretty good batting average, 250, if you're in those positions. Well, you're not playing baseball for the Seattle Mariners, most likely. And if you are, thank you for watching the show. So life, you need to be more around that 80%, 90% factor of getting it right. And if you get it wrong, that's when you pick up the phone and you call the agencies in your area or old Dr. Ralph or whatever the case might be. And Sean always puts our phone numbers at the end of the shows, and then we'll be more than happy to help you. But the reality is, hit life with the attitude that you want to be 80 to 90% correct. Don't make it a 100% goal, because that's unachievable, and then you're going to be frustrated. I don't want you frustrated. I don't want you depressed. So be reasonable, make it an 80, 90% goal, and everybody will be happy. Well, let's get into what it is to have a path for happiness. I wrote a book, and it's not even in print anymore, talking about the search for happiness. It talked about the search about not living life in the rearview mirror, which you can watch that show also, Season 3, Episode 1. And it was all about life experiences of me properly preparing my patients and clients to live life to its fullest. Because I've stated earlier in other shows, we're never guaranteed a big, long life. I sometimes look with amazement. I'm 68 now, and I look in that medicine cabinet mirror, and I just say, what happened? I mean, all over our home, there's pictures of us in our youth and when we were dating in high school, Linda and I, and the different pictures when the kids were born and raised. And I look in that mirror and I say, my God, what happened? But I'm blessed in the fact that I've lived that long. And as I was sharing with my cousin Dave, he lives in Fresno, California, is there's only 5 of us left in our immediate family as far as that's concerned. And it really strikes home the fact that when you lose uncles and aunts and you have your parents take the express upstairs, hopefully, that all of a sudden you stand alone. And you look in that mirror and you say, what in the heck can I do to impact life when you're in your 60s or 70s or 80s? I ask myself that question quite often, and that's the reason why I practice. It's not about the money. My wife could tell you that, and certainly my accountant could tell you. But it's a way of giving back life experiences. And yeah, the professional training helped, and yes, all the certifications, all that. But that's really not where I come from. Where I come from is from my heart and how I feel about things. What I come from is my life experiences, both as a husband, a father, a business partner, whatever the case might be, and some of the political things I've done. But I try to share those experiences with you, quite frankly, so you'll be happier, but even more direct to you, you don't make the same mistakes I made. So you get the benefit of 68 years of life on this great earth of ours, and hopefully you'll take advantage of that. And you can't knock the price. It's free. Okay. First rule for the path to happiness. And to me, this is very obvious, but I have to say it every once in a while to keep reminding everyone that it's so, so important. You've got to love yourself. It's literally impossible, and I'm not talking about intimacy and physical love and lust and all that other type of stuff that is more of a bodily function than it is a spiritual function and certainly a value function. But in order to love someone else, which requires you to give of yourself to someone that you care a lot about and hopefully love, you got to learn to love yourself. Why is that such an important lesson? Well, to love yourself teaches you about what you want to accomplish in your life, what your value systems are, what your moral value system is, what your role in life and where you put your priorities in life, where all that is at. And you've got to be easy on yourself because none of us are perfect. And you're going to make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you need to be prepared to solve those mistakes and move forward in life. And I can tell you that it's critical. It is critical for you to have a lifelong journey of being happy, that you have to love yourself. Now, in loving yourself, you may find there's certain parts of yourself that you really don't like. Maybe you're too skinny. Maybe you're too fat. Maybe you've had acne at the age 30. I don't know what it is. Maybe you have the wrong color hair, like maybe red hair like Sean. I don't know what it is, but the reality is that you accept whatever those things. I'm kidding about Sean, not about the red hair. But anyway, the important thing about it is to find out what your weaknesses and strengths are, develop those strengths, make them as strong as humanly possible, resolve the weaknesses with a plan, and that's important. And then when you do all that, you truly feel good about yourself. And you'll know that because when you go to bed at night, you won't be thinking about yourself and what you coulda, shoulda, woulda did. And woulda means everything, all the above. But you should just feel good that the Lord gave you another full day to share your wisdom, your strength, your love through everybody that you touch. And I think you'd be amazed on how many people you actually touch. Now, the perfect solution to this is that you next day you wake up, is that your feet hit the ground and you're ready to take on another day. That's what my dad used to always say. He says, son, I know I've got it made when each day my feet hit the ground and I'm ready to take on the next day. And he did that for almost 80 years until he recently has passed by and moved upstairs with mom. And boy, I can't imagine what the two of them are going to do after 50 years of marriage. So love yourself. Very important. Now, if for some reason you have difficulty in loving yourself, then seek counsel with that partner of yours who loves you dearly and hopefully unconditionally. Or seek counsel with a brother or sister or a mom or dad. And if you can't get that family support, if you can't get that family structure, then you pick up the phone and you pay people like me to give you the path. It's a little bit more money than this cost you, but you get that path. And it's so important. It's a good example to use, and I like to use analogies all the time. It's like driving that nice car of yours and forgetting to do an oil change, and all of a sudden you hear the engine banging, and you've managed to either run out of oil or your engine says enough already. It's an important thing to realize that if you drive a nice BMW, done that, been there, or you drive a nice Mercedes, done that, been there, that if you don't have a good battery in that car, all it is a heavy paperweight. Because without a battery, you can't start the car. And if you can't start the car, you don't get to drive the car. Life is the same way. Consider your brain, which is basically your central point of everything you do. The heart is nothing but a pump, and we all know that. But we like to kind of give it that spiritual angle. But if indeed your brain and your heart are working in concert, and they know what you need to do to have happiness and to share that happiness with others, you are at least halfway down the path of finding happiness. So it's kind of hard sometimes to open yourself up for perhaps criticism or judgments. It's kind of hard to accept the fact that you're not the best person in the world, even though you try to be. A lot of people get strengths from their spiritual relationships that they have, not only with their church and the religion, but the church family that comes with part of the deal. But for whatever reason, if you have doubts, or you have concerns, or you find yourself slipping in depression, correct that as quickly as you can and get back on the path for happiness. Depression is a tough issue, and most people have felt certain degrees of depression. And if it's not cured at the right time, and I've been involved in dealing with patients this way, then it becomes suicidal. And there is no greater tragedy at all than someone who decides to take their life. And you don't want to be one of those people and leave those people behind you wondering what it could have been if you decided to tough it out. So be strong, find that road to happiness, and when you find yourself getting slightly off the path of happiness, make a special effort to getting back on the path of happiness so you go forward. It's not like driving a car in a road where you have to, quote, stay in your own lane. It's like a road that only has one lane. You're in it, and you drive right down the middle of that lane. You don't get too far to the left. You don't get too far to the right. You just live life to its fullest. And when you go to bed at night, and based on your own spiritual guidance and your background, thank the Lord above, or your power of above, for giving you an opportunity to share your life with the day. The most important rush that I ever get is not out of my checking account or my savings account or Linda giving me a few extra bucks to spend. My greatest thrill is when somebody walks up to me and makes a genuine comment to the fact of putting their hands or arms around me and say, Doc, you saved my life. You turned my life around. And the rush that gives me is more than a rush of getting $1 million check, because it fulfills my mission in life to give back. Enough about me. Let's go ahead and take one of our quick breaks, and when we get back, we'll finish our discussion about Path for Happiness. You're tuned in to Life's Journey with Dr. Ralph Smith, and I'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Life's Journey. I'm Dr. Ralph Smith. Did you miss me during that brief period of time? Did you take some good notes? Did you already turn the TV off? Because if you did, you're not watching the rest of the show. So I'm glad you're still with us. We were talking about path for happiness and how important that is, that that's the foundation to life, and indeed it is. And there's so many different ways I can prove that to you, but just take my word for it, okay? But in any case, let's move over to the last three issues that we need to deal with for the path of happiness. The first deal, and it's an important deal, is set reasonable goals. You know, people get to the first of the year, and I guess it's tradition, I don't know what it is, but they set all these resolutions they're going to do. And most people find they fail them within the first 30 days. And everybody laughs about it, and generally when they get into another new year, God willing, they make the same resolution. Well, I'm going to suggest to you something that's contrary to that in tradition, and that is setting reachable, reasonable life goals. And in fact, if you're setting up a life goal, and it's a huge life goal, and it varies with each person, then break it up into pieces, maybe 4 pieces, so that each time you achieve that level of your life goal, you feel the inner satisfaction that indeed you met that goal. It'll give you extra incentive to go to the next level, and so on. And then once you get to that life goal, then the responsibility is for you to keep maintaining it and making sure that your partner in life is totally and 100% support of what those life goals are. So in other words, as I've told my patients in my private sessions, sit down together, get a piece of paper, and write them down. And make sure that both of you are comfortable in your life goals. Not necessarily that you agree with them, but that they're reasonable. You know, folks always ask me, say, Dr. Ralph, you talk about it in your shows, you talk about it in your sessions, seminars. What is really the answer? Well, the answer is really simple. It's like making a good decision. We can call it cognitive thinking. I can give you all the positive buzzwords to get you an honorary PhD in psychology. But it's really quite simple. When you're facing an issue or you're facing a goal, make a list of all the positive aspects, the things that'll work out great for you in doing those goals or that decision. And then on that same piece of paper, right next to it, write down the negatives that could be impacted either by your life goals or your decisions. And if you find that the positives far outweigh the negatives, both in terms of numbers and impact, then you've got a good decision. Or in our discussion today, you got a good goal. Go through it, follow through with it, and make it a building block of your new foundation. In addition to setting reasonable goals, and I know that sounds so simple to do, but when you sit down with your significant other, you find it's maybe more complicated than I'm leading you to believe. It's important to explore your partner's needs. I've always stated this through the whole 32 years I've done this type of profession, is that if one person benefits from something that you do, or if you're in a business environment, only one business profits, most likely your own company, in what you do, sooner or later the other side of the ledger will begin to think negative about your efforts and either drop out of that business arrangement or drop out of the personal arrangement. And you'll be shocked. You'll say, well, what did I do wrong? You know, I did everything I was supposed to do in business, or I did everything I was supposed to do in person. What did I do wrong? What you did wrong is you didn't leave enough in the game so that both people would benefit. Whether it be a business relationship, that your partner in business, and I'm talking about another company, benefits as well as you benefit. And if it ever gets to be one-sided, the one that's not getting the fair side of this will depart the scene. Trust me. I had a corporate life before I became a doctor, so trust me on that. In a personal relationship, that's even more important. You know, one of the big problems I have when I counsel couples and they're heading toward divorce or heading toward separation is the fact that the party that's been harmed, which we'll call that the negative in this, make the same comments over and over again. And unfortunately, in most cases, it's the female side of the ledger. Men say this too, but they don't actually say it out loud. But they say, you know, I love this woman. She means the world to me. She's had my children. But she doesn't seem to appreciate what I do. I mean, after all, you know, if I hadn't done this or I hadn't done that, we wouldn't have this. And there's the first mistake right there. You don't need to brag on yourself and who you are as a person. If it's not clearly evident to the person who matters to you, then quite frankly, bragging about it only makes you feel good. So you need to stop thinking that way, folks. I know it's in our nature as human beings to do that. And it's something you got to fight, just like smoking cigarettes. You generally don't stop just on a whim. It's a concentrated effort. Maybe you see those commercials where those people are dying at a young age, or see the horrible impact it's had on their physical body to smoke. And maybe that's enough to give you the incentive to go and live a cleaner life or a better life without those dangers of society. But in personal relationships, if you wait till then, most likely it's gone. Now, you might think, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, He's been married for 48 years. He married his sweetheart out of high school. What does he know? Well, I know a lot of things, and this is one thing I know for sure because I've had to deal with it a lot in 32 years. When I talk to women who are going through the post-relationship part of couples relationship, their explanations are always the same. Their explanations are, I don't feel that my partner thinks that I'm important to him anymore. Or he's never home. He's working all the time. And of course, if he or she's working all the time, their justification is, well, I'm making money. That's what keeps the mothership alive. It might keep the mothership alive financially, but it doesn't take care of the emotional stuff. There'll be comments made, he doesn't spend time with the kids. He works 6 days a week, and then when he's not working, he falls asleep in his favorite recliner holding a remote control. Been there, done that, folks. And these are the things that come out. They talk about the fact, and I'm trying to keep this a PG show, they come out the fact that they're not appreciated as a person as much anymore. That the quality of the intimacy and the quantity of the intimacy falls off dramatically after they get married or make that significant commitment. And my first comment to that, being a psychologist, would be, apparently y'all got together for the wrong reasons, because physical attraction, like everything else, and sometimes if you judge your relationship totally on intimacy, it's much like a tea kettle. When you first get started, you're waiting for that whistle to blow. And then when it blows, boy, you're ready to make your tea. And I know that ages me out there, but folks, that was before microwaves, okay? Guys and gals, explore your partner's needs. Listen to what they say. Unfortunately, God does not give most human beings the power to think, to listen, and to talk at the same time. It's almost impossible unless you've been professionally trained. So it's very important to explore your partner's needs. How do you do that? You find a private environment. You don't get all soaked up in alcohol to where you don't remember the next day what you said. And you simply say, hey, hon, what can I do, or what can we do together to make your life happier? And yeah, I know you've gained some weight, and believe me, I love you as much as when you weighed 125 as you do at 175. And yeah, the guys, we lose our hair unless you're lucky and blessed. And as that hairline recedes and you start putting more shine to the world than a sunrise does, you start thinking, well, it's that damn hair situation. Well, it's not the hair. It's your heart. It's how you feel about each other and how your brain functions those emotions. So take the time to explore your partner's needs. And I'm a big proponent that you write everything down, folks. I have to write everything down so I don't forget it. But of course, I came into the world just after the dinosaurs died, so I have to do things like that. But explore your partner's needs and make sure that the relationship is as good for them as it is for you. And after you've done that, after you've written the list, after you've done all that work, and that's a lot of work, by the way. You're not going to do it in one sit down. It's a great time to take off for your monthly adventure, like we've talked about, where you and your significant others disappear and forget about what you do for careers and your kids and all that stuff. And make sure the kids are taken care of. Don't get it wrong. But you have private time, like you did in those earlier days when you fell in love with each other. Make that list. And once you get that list done and you have a common agreement on the priorities and you've written it down, make it part of your life plan. And you write it up. I'm not saying you need to put this on the refrigerator door for the world to see, but you write it up and you make sure you have a copy and your significant other has a copy, and you live it. You sign it and you live it. And if you need a third person to help you in that, then you need to call a clinical psychologist. Give us a call. Go to an agency that provides that direction. Get help if you need it. Now, after you complete that, and then, by the way, I'm going to say this many, many times during what's left of this show. After you complete that, then you have to do something which is very hard. It's totally unnatural for most human beings, and it's a learned behavior, as we call it in the trade. But you've got to ask your partner, and that partner should ask you the same thing. What are the things that I do that drive you absolutely nuts? And if you don't want to use the term nuts, you can use it and get more formal. Is there anything I'm doing that you can share with me that makes you feel insecure or affects your self-esteem or your self-worth? Because I want you to know that I love you so much that your happiness and your purpose in life is the most important part of my life. And thus, with that commitment, we raise these wonderful children, if you have children, to be kind of a mirror of that. So set it out originally on the positive side, making that checklist of the things that you each need to talk about. And again, folks, do it in writing. Don't verbalize it, because when the body of work, as I refer to it as, using your brain, the retention is very little. In fact, most people, a week or two afterwards, they don't even remember the conversation. And that's when your significant other says, well, we talked about that. You said that. Hey, make it easy on yourself. Get a pen that has some ink in it, a nice piece of paper, write it down, and then both of you sign it. And I know that sounds formal, and I know it seems unnatural, but it's never a question, because then when you get in those discussions, before you pick up the phone and pay me $200 or $300 an hour, you say, well, hon, remember we talked about this, and this is what you said we should do. And here, I have it right here. And then all of a sudden you don't have to make that phone call, and you save that money, okay? When you do all of these things, and it's very important that you do, both the positive and the negative, the last piece of this, which is very, very important, is you make a checklist. And you say, okay, I know I'm, to recap, I know I'm going down the path of happiness. I know what happiness means. I've set my reasonable goals like Dr. Ralph talked about. We've sat down and talked about exploring what our partners think. All that work's been done, and that's a lot of work. But you're not done yet. That's why you read a book from the front cover to the back cover. You don't do it in reverse. Life issues and life plans are exactly the same thing. You make a checklist, and you break it down by each partner. Now, there'll be a case where you'll have your partner here, you'll have yourself here, and then you'll have a bottom line that says joint. That means you and your partner both do it, okay? That's simple enough. And you make a list of the items that are critical to your relationship as lovers, as partners in the relationship. You make a list of things that's important in raising your children, setting the right examples. Who's going to pick up Johnny at soccer? Who's going to, pick up Sally at gymnastics? Whatever the case might be, but get it finite so you can count on each other. And folks, I know you're going to say, well, we have cell phones and I can call somebody. You don't know what that person's doing. I use a speakerphone throughout my stereo when I drive a lot in my car, just so I can talk to someone and not do something dangerous to kill some other family going down the road. And if it's something really intense that I really got to think a lot about, I pull off the road and I park safely so I can finish the conversation. That's why they have laws about stuff like that. So what I want you to do is to make that list. Discuss it with your loved one, and visit that list about every 3 months to make sure that each of you guys are meeting the criteria of the list. And I guarantee you the formality of making the list will be quickly forgotten in the fact of how happy and the better life you live. That's where that's at. So I hope you follow these checklist requirements. I hope you've listened to the parts of the show that define the path to happiness. And more importantly, it's great to be happy, because when you get older, that's what gives you the fond memories of why you've worked so hard in your life to be happy. On behalf of the Jenny Marie Wellness Centers, and certainly all of us at Alpine Productions, I thank you for tuning in, and I hope you find positive use to all the things I've shared with you. And we look forward to you joining us in Season 4. Take care of one another, and God bless.